I have to say, I don't think Liam Manning was lying when he has repeatedly said this group has got a lot of character, spirit, and determination, because that was tested to the absolute limit at the Kassam today. It was a 1-1 draw between Oxford United and Bristol City, but my God, it feels like a lot more than just a point for the 9 men of Bristol City that survived at the Kassam at the end of the game. One of the most ridiculous games, one of the most emotional games I think I've watched in a while for City, and sending offs in either half for Joe Williams and Ross McCrory meant it was always going to be backs against the wall. And from minute number 31 on, when Joe Williams gets sent off by Oliver Langford, who we'll have a chat about in just a minute, don't you worry, it always felt like Bristol were going to be right up against it, and we were. And it certainly didn't help after we conceded that goal on 56, but just kept going, kept churning, it just kept on going. And, normally it's us getting done off a set piece and not winning a game, or a little bit of quality from an opposition who really, we had very little, but still, I think we're more than Oxford going forward, if I'm being brutally honest. Um, just the lack of it's normally us that gets done in that way. But thankfully, it was Bristol City who managed to hold on for a point away from home. I thought the game was initially, you could see that it was quite lively. I mean, both sides were really going at it, and some flying challenges were going in from either side. And Ross McCrory was booked on minute number 4. Greg Lee was booked for an atrocious challenge, which, quite honestly, I think should have resulted in a red card. And he's gone in. I think he was going in on Jason Knight potentially. It might have been Joe Williams, or Ross McCrory, one of the three. Well, whatever it is, he goes in with his studs up. It's a high foot. He's gone right into his kind of midriff area, and it's just ludicrous. He's booked for that when it should really be a red card. It's serious foul play, not excessive force, but I think it's serious foul play. I think it falls into that. Cameron Brannigan is booked as a result of Joe Williams being sent off and his kind of arguments and that. Joe Williams goes in really heavily, really rashly. I'm not defending the challenge in the slightest. I think it's a really poor challenge by Joe Williams, and I would like to think that most people would agree it's not a good challenge. It's not a good decision by Joe Williams in that moment to go in flying in on whoever it was for Oxford, might have been Halleck. Doesn't matter really. Goes in flying on the Oxford United player, but everything just kind of goes like that. Just rises, all the emotions just boil over, and it felt like the whole Oxford United team just crowded around referee Langford. And I'm not being funny, and I don't normally blame referees for if we lose, if we draw, don't win the game, whatever, right? Normally it's us doing ourselves over, but this is just a complete lunacy from my perspective. And Joe Williams is rightly outraged after he's sent off, and it's not a good challenge. Again, I think it's probably deserving of a yellow card, possibly. It's a foul, I think, in my opinion. If someone did that against us, I'd probably just call for it to be a foul. But I think if you look at the rules, quite frankly, of what constitutes the red card, serious foul play. No, not really. Is Studs kind of is he in risk? Is he going to endanger the opponent? I know whoever it was. I'm guessing it's Mika. I'm going to go with the Halleck now. I think it was Mika Halleck. Kind of went over, but it's a bit theatrical. Is it excessive force? I think the referee probably looked at excessive force as the one that probably constituted closest to handing out the red card. But I don't think it's excessive force, because he doesn't go in really quickly. He dives in, but he goes in on the floor really for a lot of the last bit of the challenge. The actual contact is along the floor. So I'm not sure that constitutes necessarily to serious foul play. And the last ones are like denial of goal scoring opportunity and stuff like that, and that just doesn't fall into that category either. So I don't know why he sent him off. Quite honestly, I don't know. And I'm sure we'll get a lovely letter of apology from whoever it is, BGMOL, I can't remember, that is in control of this, because this is a shambolic decision in my eyes. Despite that, Oxford, for the last 15 minutes of the first half, don't really have much in the way of an attacking threat, and Bristol City actually did really well to hold off Oxford United up until half time. We obviously had a lot of possession in the early stages of the game, so by the end of the first half, Oxford had 60% of the ball, Bristol 40% at half time because of the red card. So what happened? What from my eyes anyway? It was every time Brannigan or Volks in the middle of Oxford's midfield got the ball, Williams, Knight, sometimes McCrory, depending on what side of the ball, and Syke kind of really charged in on the Oxford United midfield and prevented them from playing through the thirds. And we did the kind of that pressing side of the game excellently well and did really well to kind of limit them to creating any big chances. Limited them up until the red card really well in terms of getting the ball out to Greg Lee or Peter Chiozo or whoever it was, and limited balls and going into the box to a certain degree. And whenever they did go in, it was kind of low quality and quite easy for Vine and McNally Dickey to clear. And I thought we actually executed our game plan quite well. And I thought if we continued this for a large proportion of the game, we would go on to create a big chance. As a result of it, obviously that's gone up, that goes out the window once one of the key players in that game plan is taken out, Joe Williams. Max Bird comes on for Scott Twine, which I was quite surprised by, and I honestly didn't like it at the time. I was like, set pieces now are so crucial with 10 men. You've got to have that quality to put a good ball into the box because you won't have any set pieces. You're down to 10 men and up against it, so I was just a bit surprised by that. Nahki Wells came off for Sinclair Armstrong, and again, a little bit sceptical. Nahki Wells, good kind of hold-up play, despite Sinclair Armstrong's size, hasn't really shown it in a City shirt, that hold-up play. So I thought maybe, keep Nahki Wells on until 60 and then take him off and maybe give Sinclair Armstrong a run then, but actually worked quite well. Again, first 15 minutes of the first half, I didn't really think Oxford created too many big chances, honestly. I think Kieran Brown had a chance from a set piece that kind of just fell nowhere, and we didn't clear properly. It was awful from us, and he hit it straight at Max O'Leary. Apart from that, nothing really in the way of chances for either side. George Earthy, who started the game, so the Bristol City starting 11 was Max O'Leary, Zach Varner, Rob Dickey, McNally, Sykes, Williams, Knight, McCrory, Twine, Earthy, and Nahki Wells. Earthy had to work really hard. Sinclair Armstrong was very isolated. Mark Sykes, again, they all have to kind of dig in, really show their defensive acumen. They did really well. But just for 2 minutes before Oxford's goal, and the first goal of the game, just didn't quite hold our resolve. And under the tiniest increase in pressure, City folded. The ball finds Greg Lee on the left-hand side of the box, the left wing back, left wing back, who knows, left back gets right up the pitch as you'd expect in full back in that situation to get right up the pitch with the man advantage, and kind of hits a cross-come shot really a little bit. And normally, you'd expect 3 centre backs, that ball just gets cleared away. But I think Dickey understands there's no one behind him and kind of expects Max to come and claim the ball and just get rid of it, really dissolve the situation. So Dickey doesn't get a touch on it. Max obviously expects Dickey to go and clear it. It's a miscommunication, and the ball is kind of just arrowing, just creeps into the far corner. It's really poor from both, I think, Max O'Leary and Rob Dickey. I've seen a lot of, again, scapegoating for Max O'Leary, and you know what? It's what it is, but honestly, it's a bit of both. It's not good from either player, and there have been situations this season where Max and the centre back haven't communicated very well, and that's led to a big chance or a goal or whatever. And that was another situation, and unfortunately, that point, just 2 minutes of increased pressure really, and a bit of self-inflicted mistake, and is a goal. Mikael Helek is then booked, and by this point, you need an outlet, don't you? And that's what Sinclair Armstrong was providing for Bristol City. He grew into the game a lot more, and that the fact that he wins that foul on minute number 64, which books, I think, is the result, is why Mikael Helek was booked. And then the fact that we scored from that just I think shifted his confidence up. It's a really, really good, well worked free kick because it's on the right hand side. It's an attacking free kick. It's right. It's kind of adjacent to the box, and Max Bird is on it. There's 2 players. Either he can put it into the box. Earthy's on it over it as well. He can either put it into the box. One of them can put it in the box, or they can give it to Jason Knight, who's also on the edge of the box and waiting, or they can give it to Mark Sykes, who's a little bit further out and a little bit more of a awkward ball to kind of perfectly play in. But if they get that ball right, Mark Sykes has got a really good opportunity to kind of bend it in towards the far corner. it's a really difficult pitch to execute balls and tough, difficult balls. We found that out first half, both sides, I think. McNally and Dickey had a bit of a tough time trying to pass it out. Liner did as well. And Hellick and Brannigan and Volkson for Oxford had a difficult time to kind of progress it at a fuss and a freight. But that ball from Max Bird to Mark Sykes is absolutely pinpoint, and the finish from Mark Sykes on that difficult pitch is sensational. It is beautiful. It is a curling effort, and it just bends and bends and goes into that far left corner, kind of into the side netting. Really low chance for Jamie Cumming to go and save that one. And at that point, you're back in the game, minute number 65. You're kind of going, right, can this we're definitely not out of this. Can we go and just secure the point? And quite frankly, we could have gone on to win it. George Earthy is put clean through on goal. He runs in past, I think it was Kieran Brown, might have been Hellick, can't remember. But it's a long ball from Jason Knight-Lofto over the top, and ball goes over the top. Earthy is clean through on goal. He just has to finish it with a little bit of pace past Jamie Cumming. He's obviously completely shot on confidence, isn't he, George Earthy? I mean, it's quite obvious to see. He came off, I think, later in the game, but honestly, despite that, I thought he had a fairly good game and actually showed some really good signs and energy and kept us kind of taking over when we needed to. So yeah, he goes through on goal. He tries to he sees Sinclair Armstrong at the corner of his eye, completely free, and he tries to pass it over to Sinclair Armstrong and square it into an open net, but he doesn't. It doesn't quite happen for him. And after that, it's a chance is gone. Brannigan comes over and claims the ball. But yeah, a really disappointing moment there for George Earthy. He probably should have done a hell of a lot better in the situation. Marcus McGuane replaces George Earthy, minute number 80. And then Alex Matos, 5 minutes after coming on, is booked for a rash challenge, very similar, in my humble opinion, to the one that Joe Williams puts in a similar part of the pitch, and is only given a yellow card. I have to admit, Bristol City players do their utmost best to surround referee Langford and give him a decision to make, and football fans and what we'll do. But is that a red card? No, it's not. I don't think it's not, but I don't think it's a red card. I think Alex Matos actually puts in a relatively decent challenge, and I don't think, honestly, he should be booked for it. But Joe Williams was booked for a very similar one. Was sent off, sorry, for a very similar one. He's only booked for that very similar challenge that Joe Williams put in. It's just a bit crazy. And I know asking for consistency with different referees is difficult, but for the same referee in the same game in the span of about an hour to make completely different decisions on very similar challenges is, in my opinion, quite crazy. Ross McCrory is booked for the second time today on minute number 86 for a 50-50 challenge. He loses out to Kieran Brown. Honestly, I've seen 50-50s, 50-50, been given, fouls being given for that because one player loses it. But to book a player for losing a 50-50 when it's obviously 50-50 is, in my opinion, quite crazy. And Rush McCrory sent off. He's livid. He's completely livid. But you can't change it, I'm afraid. And we might be able to kind of appeal the Joe Williams red card, and he might still be available for that game against Swansea. But the Rush McCrory one, I'm afraid, is appealable, if that's a word, because it was a yellow card and he can't appeal that. Tom Bradshaw comes on for Mark Harris on minute number 89, just before 4 minutes of added time goes on. Gary Rowett, obviously, at that point is banking on a few balls going into the box, and Tom Bradshaw maybe a bit more of an aerial threat than Mark Harris. But to be fair to Rob Dickey, to Luke McNally, to Zach Viner, to whoever was in the box, Jason Knight, Max Bird, Marcus McGuane, whoever the hell was in there, did really well to just get the balls away, just dig in, get a clear. Sometimes the clearances were shank, sometimes the clearances were too well hit and didn't hit, Sinclair Armstrong or Sykes or McCrory or whoever it was. We just managed to find a way. That is what good teams do. 4 minutes of added time go up, as I say, and City are obviously well into preservation mode. George Tanner comes on for Sinclair Armstrong, who did really well, grew into that second half really nicely. And, despite 46 minutes on the pitch, I thought he did fantastically well, Sinclair Armstrong. The sub being subbed is normally a narrative, but it's absolutely not in this scenario. It needs much for City at that point. And quite frankly, the ending of the game, with Max O'Leary being booked, I found quite amusing. I don't think Max has been booked that too many times in terms of time wasting. I found it incredibly amusing, and quite an apt ending to what was a dismal refereeing performance. And normally, you see, I try not to blame referees, um, because it's normally us that's kind of inflicted the damage onto ourselves. But honestly, I don't think I can. You can't not look at the referee's performance and go, that's not good enough for a championship referee to go and make one horrendous decision, another horrendous decision, in terms of not sending Greg Lee off, and a few other questionable decisions as well. Yeah, and I'm not. You know what? I'm going to be very careful in terms of what I say, because I said some stuff after the game against Oxford United at home earlier this season, where we beat them 2-1 at Ashton Gate. And well, again, I've had a lot of stuff, Liam Manning, whatnot, leaving them in the middle of last season and joining us, and them going up, and them apparently they were going to beat us at Ashton Gate quite convincingly and sack Liam Manning. I thought they were going to beat us and be even 2 points of us. They're still 5 points behind us, aren't they? Yeah, it's a very, I think, in my opinion, a great point on the road, and we're still, I think, not got a win in 8 away championship games in a row or something, but that feels like more than 1 point. It feels like 2, not 3. It feels like 2, but ultimately it's just the 1. It keeps us ticking over. And with West Brom losing at Plymouth Argyle later on, with Watford losing, Norwich winning, Blackburn winning though, it keeps us ticking along. And Middlesbrough have got a tough game against Sunderland at the Riverside on Monday as well. So hopefully not the worst weekend for Bristol. Sheffield Wednesday have got Luton at home. Coventry have got Swansea away. So they've some tough games this round for teams in and around Bristol City. So hopefully it can only mean good things. But yeah, a really, really weird game, remarkable game, and one that Bristol City have ultimately gained, in my opinion, a point from rather than lost to. Whew. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Keep safe, and I'll catch you all later. Cheers.